In this lesson, we're going to learn how to write our own function in Python. In algebra, we learned a function is a relation between input to an output. I usually make a factory to show a relation between input and output. For example, 0 when inside of the function, the output is 1. And 1 when inside, we get 3, 2 when inside we get 5, and like a 10 when inside we will get 21. So we have input, we have output, we learn input or domain, output or the range, and there is a relation between input and output. Sometimes it's easy to find out about the relation, or sometimes it's complicated, but in this case it looks like if x will be inside, we will get 2x plus 1 will be the output of this function. So now we're going to learn how to write it in Python. So we want to build this function, and anytime we call the function, that means we're going to give an input, and Python will calculate it and gives us the output. We already know a few built-in functions in Python. So those are the built-in, like a print, like calculating the mean, median, mode. But this is us. That means we super customize. So how do we say it? Let's get started. We use def. So at the beginning, we have to tell Python, start with def, and we write our function's name. So after def will be, so I'm going to call this is a linear function, or just linear function. Parenthesis, the variable, it will be only an x. So I'm going to put x here, and has to be a colon here. So I'm telling Python, anytime I use def, that means we are going to create a custom function. This is the name of my function and gets a variable. So after colon, if you enter, we're going to have few space here, mostly 4. And then we're going to say print, parenthesis, 2 multiply by x plus 1. So this is the x. Now anytime, so this is going to be inside of your code, anytime you call linear function. So for example, we have code here, we have code over there. Now at one part of my code, I'm going to say print linear function 11. So what's going to happen here, we're putting parentheses. So this linear function, it will point to this function, and this function gets a variable x. X here is 11, so Python will print 2 times 11 plus 1. So here we're going to have 22 plus 1 is 22 plus 1 is 23. Let's have another example. Let me erase this. So now let's write a function that calculates the square area of each square. So we're going to write a function. So we know we need to start with def. So I'm going to start with def. Then we need to have our unique name. I'm going to say, let's change the color to purple. My underscore square area. and this gets a variable x, colon here, and I'm gonna say area, doesn't need to be uppercase, I'm gonna say variable area equal to x multiplied by x. And then I'm going to say print area, or I can say return area. Not all the time at the end of function we have print. Most of the time we have return. That means if anybody call this function, it returns the area. So this is another example of function. Any part of your code, if you call this function, for example, I'm going to say print my square area of 8. By running this code, Python sees this, refer it to this function. This function gets one variable, and the good thing is we have one variable, x. X gonna go inside, 8 times 8, we're gonna get 64. So mostly, or all the time, we use function to help organize and optimize the code. We also have another expression, they call it lambda. So back to the last example. In this example, we create a function and there is a name for the function. If we use lambda expression, this, if we use it, then we don't need to have a name for the function. So lambda will create a function without a name. Let's have one example. I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to say like s area equal to. So this is a variable. Something about the function's name. Function's name cannot have any space and has to be underscore. We cannot have minus here. This is all that has to be underscore here. Same as variable. We cannot have any name for the function. And so let's back to the lambda. I create a s area equal to, I use lambda x colon x multiply by x. So this lambda here, this is a built-in function in Python. Helps us to create a function without any name. So now s area, which is a variable, equal to this. And we see lambda, that means there is a function going on. So now if I say print s area has lambda in it, and lambda gets only one variable. So I'm going to put like 5. So Python going to pass 5 to this x, which will be 5 multiplied by 5, and the answer will be 25. Let's have another example of lambda. We will use lambda a lot in this course. It's a very powerful function. For example, I'm going to say sum equal to lambda A plus, no, A and B gets two variable, A comma B, colon, A plus B. So variable sum equal to this. If I say print sum, this sum takes two variables. So I have to say like 2 and 5, for example. Now this 2 and 5, we'll pass it to this and add them, so the output will be 7. So sum, if you print it, 7 will be printed.